So you're standing at a crossroads. You already know that multi-agent AI systems are the future of software development, but you're faced with the ultimate developer dilemma. Which framework do you actually use to build them? Do you prioritize speed, precision, scalability? It's a critical choice, and it's absolutely going to dictate your architecture, your deployments, and honestly, your team's sanity for months to come.
Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. We're going to settle this dilemma today by putting three of the top heavyweights head-to-head. We'll be looking at CrewAI, LangGraph, and BeeAI. But we aren't just going to talk theory here. We're going to see exactly how each of these distinct frameworks handles the exact same real-world coding challenge.
Here's our roadmap for today. First, we'll define the mission. Then we'll test drive CrewAI, followed by LangGraph, and finally BeeAI, before wrapping up with choosing your framework. All right, Section 1, the mission. Building a market research agent. Let's be real, abstract code comparisons, they don't help anyone. We need something practical. So our mission is to build a market research agent that hits 4 specific sequential steps. First up, thoroughly research a given company, let's say Tesla. Second, analyze its top competitors. Third, identify and summarize key market opportunities. And fourth, wrap the whole shebang into a concise one-page markdown report. Let's see how our baseline test plays out with the first contender. Moving to Section 2, CrewAI, the human team. Whenever you think of CrewAI, I want you to imagine managing a team of highly trained human specialists. The core philosophy here is pretty wild. It's fundamentally designed to mimic actual human dynamics in the workplace. You literally define roles, kind of like hiring employees, and you let the framework's intuitive API handle the messy process management underneath. So, how does this actually look in code for our market research mission? Well, in CrewAI, you're basically writing a job description. You create explicit agents, a market researcher, a competitive analyst, a market strategist, and a report writer. You give them a clear role, a goal, and even a backstory using plain old natural language. Then you set up the tasks. Since our report depends on the opportunity analysis, which depends on the competitors, and so on, we just set the process to sequential execution. We simply pass a context parameter to make sure the prerequisite outputs flow naturally to the next agent. It feels incredibly intuitive to write. So the crucial point here is understanding the trade-off. On one hand, CrewAI gives you insanely fast development time. I mean, the lack of boilerplate code and just using natural language task descriptions, you could prototype a multi-agent system in an afternoon. On the flip side, though, because the framework abstracts so much away to simulate that human autonomy, you lose fine-grained control. If you've got a highly complex workflow with crazy loops or deep conditional logic, CrewAI might start feeling a bit rigid. Honestly, it's kind of like trying to micromanage a stubborn creative director. Next up, Section 3, LangGraph, precision and control. If CrewAI is that autonomous human team, LangGraph is your hyper-precise deterministic flowchart. Just look at this quote: precise control over execution flow, excellent state management, strong traceability, and debugging. With LangGraph, you are absolutely not relying on the LLM to autonomously figure out who to pass the baton to. You, the developer, are in the driver's seat, explicitly drawing the map and managing exactly what data moves from step A to step B. Now, when we implement our market research agent here, the code is a totally different beast. You kick things off by strictly defining a state object, the agent state class, which acts as the central memory bank for the entire operation. Then you implement functions as tools with super precise input and output types. But here's the kicker. You explicitly map out the entire process as a graph. You build nodes for research, analysis, and reporting, and you literally draw the edges connecting them. You dictate every single transition, meaning if something breaks, you know exactly which node it broke in, complete with explicit error handling to catch it. Which brings us to the pros and cons of LangGraph. You get unbelievable fine-grained control. Need complex conditional branching? Like, if the competitor is X, do this, otherwise do that. LangGraph eats that for breakfast. And the traceability makes production debugging during a 2 a.m. PagerDuty nightmare an absolute dream. But the cost, well, it's verbose. We're talking way higher initial setup time and a ton of boilerplate code compared to CrewAI. You are writing strict Python types and graph logic here, not just natural language job descriptions. Moving to our final contender, Section 4, BeeAI. Scalable and modular. Okay, so if CrewAI is a human team and LangGraph is a precise flowchart, BeeAI is like a massive modular assembly line built for horizontal scale.
It uses a highly declarative approach. That means you focus on declaring what needs to be done rather than imperatively coding exactly how to do it step by step. It separates the implementation logic completely from the workflow itself. It's hyper-focused on modular components, making it incredibly scalable, especially with its strong support for parallel processing across distributed systems. Let's see this in action for a market research task. With BeeAI, you start by defining explicitly coded tools, say a company research tool or a competitor analysis tool. Then you create your bees, the actual agents. But unlike CrewAI, these bees have incredibly specific responsibilities with minimal overlap. They're heavily restricted to their own modular tools. Then, and this is the real magic, you define a beehive. The beehive is a totally separate configuration that just dictates the workflow. Since the flow is separate from the implementation logic, state management just happens automatically behind the scenes based on how that hive is set up. The trade-offs here are pretty unique. That highly modular architecture makes BeeAI an absolute powerhouse for horizontal scaling. You can reuse these isolated tools and bees across completely different applications, which keeps your code base super clean for heavy, enterprise-level distributed workloads. But, and it's a significant but, you have to remember it's a much newer framework. That means you're looking at a smaller community, docs that are still evolving, and definitely fewer out-of-the-box integrations compared to the other two right now. Section 5, Choosing Your Framework, the final verdict. So, what does this all mean? We've just test-driven 3 entirely different philosophies for the exact same mission, and this brilliantly illustrates exactly when you should reach for each tool. Need rapid prototyping and human-like agent autonomy? CrewAI is your go-to for sure. But if you're building complex workflows or stateful apps where a single hallucination could tank production, you absolutely want LangGraph for its precise state management and traceability. Finally, if you're tackling massive enterprise workloads and horizontal scaling is your #1 priority, BeeAI's declarative modularity is the clear winner. At the end of the day, there was no single best framework out there, only the best framework for your specific context. So I want to leave you with this. How does your team's current expertise and your long-term maintenance strategy align with these evolving tools? Are you a crew of Python engineers who love strict typing, or rapid prototypers wanting to lean into natural language? Figuring that out is the real secret to successfully building your next AI agent. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep building.